So I'm also curious, Anthony. A number of us have looked at your book, and I was wondering at the response that you've had to your book, just within among your peers and other groups. Has the response been positive? Sort of, is this a controversial book? I'm not sure I agree with all your suggestions at the end, so I'm really interested in hearing your talk today. But I just was wondering how the response had been.
It's been mixed, right? There's some who are excited by the possibilities it presents and interested in the push it seeks to provide. There are others who've been in email or at various conferences pulling me to the side who are not so pleased by it, who feel as if they don't warrant the reprimand, or who are much more interested in pointing out to me why Black people are their own worst enemies, right? So it's kind of mixed. It seems to me that in large part, it points out there are various meanings to progressive within humanist circles. There are also those who aren't really interested in solidarity. They're interested in leadership. That is to say, they want to tell oppressed people what it means to be free and how they ought to understand freedom and how they ought to go about achieving it, all while seeking to maintain their comfort. Kurt, the publisher, didn't quite understand why this would be controversial, and I certainly didn't understand why it would be controversial when on some level it's simply holding humanists accountable for what they claim. Right? I don't understand how a humanist can tell me they are interested in dismantling anti-Black racism and then be troubled by suggestions on how you go about doing that.
Right.
Can't have it both ways.
I think we kind of know why.
Yeah.
Yes.
And one of the things I harp on and will continue to harp on is the rather narrow and simplistic conversation concerning religion in Black communities. Right? A deep unwillingness to understand its complexities.
Well, that was very interesting in your whole introduction and the first chapter.
Yeah, making the distinction between religion versus theism.
Theism.
Well, and Jews have a similar thing where there are very secular Jews versus religious Jews, right?
But I think that's true even in a lot of different denominations. People are attracted to religion for community, social justice issues. It's a long-standing issue of how humanism doesn't offer that kind of community. When you make a point about rituals is one part of building up community. It certainly was the focus of my talk. I'm a celebrant about at the conference last year at AHA. So about humanism not celebrating humanism to make it more community oriented. So,
but then I think you do have fine examples of community formation, like Black non-believers, right? This is an example of community formation. But it seems to me part of the problem, and I'll talk about this a bit tonight, is that we are so willing to take our marching orders from theists that we allow theists to claim vocabulary and grammar that is still useful to us.
Oh my gosh.
Right? How many humanists are annoyed by the language of ritual or wonder?
Right.
Right? I mean, that doesn't make a tremendous amount of sense to me. If you think about ritual as repeated activity in founded space, we do ritual.
Yeah.
Or the number of humanists who who are uncomfortable with conversations about meaning or meaning making. And it just seems to me a poor move on our part.
Yeah, and it's a matter of words too. If I bring up the word ritual, people are always entirely against it. So I try to think of a synonym like maybe tradition.
Yeah, but that is the problem. That's what I'm. But that's what I'm pointing to, right? That we have assumed that how theists use this vocabulary is the only way it can be used.
Right.
And why would we do that? We've not surrendered other elements of our vocabulary. Why would we surrender these elements? In part, it's because we often work based upon a radical sense of individualism. And this is a vocabulary that cuts against that.
But I think it's also a little deeper than that. It's because we all have our own biases that we bring, and we may have biases against rituals religious rituals, which we reject or have rejected, and do not want to now recreate them.
But again, you're making my point. You're making my point that we have surrendered this to theists as if the only way to understand ritual is the way we understood it in the Baptist churches we've left, or the Catholic churches we left, or the Methodist churches we've left, when this isn't of necessity the case. But then we wonder why we have such a difficult time forming community. We don't give people a soft place to land. And it's this ritual process, this development of meaning-making skills that allow people a soft place to land. It seems to me, in large part, that's what Mandisa has provided.
Well, yeah, and on that note, if I may interject,
yeah.
This is a part of the recovery process, you know, which is the reason why I'm heavily involved with recovering from religion, because once you've been indoctrinated, and we've been indoctrinated, whether we were raised in a religious household or not, but it is about, like, you know, like Anthony is saying, like, rethink, like, we give too much power to the religious, you know, to the religious base, and they don't deserve that. You know, it's like they have it, but they've never, like, the idea of community and traditions predate, you know, the Judeo-Christian.
Yeah,
and so I'll just say, you know, just getting people to understand that and reconsider that, and to overcome what may be considered trauma is a huge step. And there's some work that still needs to be done, even if it is uncomfortable.